Hello and welcome to another episode of Ossi Comments On. This time, as announced in the previous episode, with why Wal-Mart failed in Germany by the channel Cheddar Examines. So, as you might know, Wal-Mart is one of the most successful companies in the world and has stores all over the world. Except for Germany. I don't know if they have stores in Germany now, but in 1997 they tried and they failed. Why did they fail? This is why I have announced to do this video. If you have watched my special on the German Unification Day, which was in early October, then you might already know. It is because Germany has a different culture, and the things that Walmart stands for and the cultural differences that surfaced there were a huge part of the failure. But we will learn about this when we watch the video. Short introduction, I'm Ossi, I'm 31 years old. I'm born in East Germany, but raised and now living in Hamburg, Germany. I am a former history student without degree and a former video game journalist. And this is Knowledge Enthusiast, a channel where we learn together and at least try to get to sleep. Because I know my videos are long and I know I talk too much and I know I have a very calm personality and voice, so you might watch me as a sleep aid, but it's okay. I'm here for you and maybe you learn something, maybe not. If you want to learn more about Germany, German culture and Germans, then you can join the Discord. The link is in the description. And we have there a little sub channel where you can ask everything you always wanted to know about Germany, German stuff, and you can post your questions there, and I want to do a video on them in the future. If I get enough questions. I know the Discord is very empty right now, but I hope that in time we will get some more people there. This is not a historical video like most videos I do here. It's just more or less a cultural video, so I hope I have not talked too much. So the video is 2 hours long or something, but it's a very interesting topic, and I hope I can maybe give some context, cultural context in that case. And if I mess up or miss out or stuff like that, then you have the info text box right there where you will have all clarifications, additions and stuff like that. And without further ado, let's start the video Why Walmart Failed in Germany by Cheddar Examines.
In 1997, Walmart opened its first store in Germany. They had officially entered the largest retail market in Europe.
But 9 years later, they sold their stores, packed their bags, and left the country. They had lost $1 billion. So how did the largest private employer in the world fail so badly?
1 billion? I heard it was as much as like $3 billion net loss what they had in Germany. But I'm not 100% sure, of course, but that's what I heard. So I will put it in the info text box what the actual loss was.
So how did the largest private employer in the world fail so badly?
By 1988, Walmart had become the most profitable retailer in the US. Their success spurred the company to start looking abroad at the international market. And the expansion has been largely successful. Walmart now has almost 12,000 stores in 27 countries.
In Britain, they now own the second largest supermarket chain in the country, Asda. They're the largest private employer in Mexico and the third largest in Canada. But that success is not universal.
In 1997, Walmart purchased two German retail chains, Wertkauf and Interspar, totaling 95 stores.
But as far as I know, Interspar is just a chain of Spar, which sounds German, and as a kid I always thought that Spar is German, but the word at least is actually Finnish, and the logo is a tree. I actually don't know the English word. It's a fir tree, okay, a fir tree, and Spar or Spar, or however you would pronounce it, is the Finnish word for fir tree, which is why the logo is a fir tree. So I don't know if Interspar is actually a German company or a Finnish company, but I will put it in the info text box. And but it's what I know. It's a branch of Spar, which still exists today. I know that a lot of stores of them were purchased by other companies like Plus and Edeka, but I think Spar is still around somewhere. I have seen one in a train station or something when I was traveling, but I'm not sure. But yeah, Marktkauf and Interspar were two very, very big hypermarket branches or companies in Germany with lots of stores. I think they had several hundred stores, which Walmart then purchased and either rebranded, or I think they even built some new stores or stuff like that. But yeah. And I think Interspar they purchased for $1.3 billion or something, and Marktkauf for a couple $100 million, but don't nail down, you know what I mean. I will put it in the info text box, the actual amounts, so you know what the investment of Walmart was in Germany, starting with purchasing those stores. So, and now go back. Yeah, 74. They purchased 74 stores and not the whole. I will put it in the info text box, but yeah.
Chains, Wertkauf and Interspar, totaling 95 stores.
It was a huge risk. Germany in the late 90s was a hostile market.
Restrictive shopping hours, regulated zoning, and high unemployment.
Actually,
huge risk. Germany in the late 90s was a hostile market.
Restrictive shop.
So nowadays, when you want to go shopping, you in Germany, you have on one hand you have discounters, which are some of them you might know, like Lidl and Aldi, but there's also Penny and Plus, as I mentioned earlier. And then you have supermarkets. So a discounter is just cheapest stuff. It's still good quality and they still have brands, but they offer them mostly to the lowest prices. And for example, fresh vegetables are not the best of the best, but still okay. Then you have supermarkets, which is a level higher. They have slightly higher prices. Sometimes they have the same prices as discounters. Such stores are Rewe, which is one of the biggest companies in Germany next to Aldi in terms of markets. Then you have Edeka, and you have stuff like more or less Real and Famila. Those are very it's complicated. They're bought up and are already on the step to becoming like real warehouses. So it's hard to say there are supermarkets. And then you have such hypermarkets as, for example, Real and Famila might be. I'm actually not quite sure where the border is. And so in the supermarkets, you still have mostly food and stuff like that. Some non-food articles and at a higher quality. And in these hypermarkets, you have you have food, you have lots of non-food, cheap non-food articles like household articles like cheap TVs, cheap washing machines, not the high brand stuff that you would get in an electronics store, for example. But those hypermarkets are comparable to I think what Walmart is, but higher priced. And when you go shopping in Germany today, you can do so depending on where you are. I live in Hamburg. Hamburg is a big city. So we have discounters that open at 7 a.m. and close at 10 p.m. And we have, for example, Rewe. I have a Rewe that's, I can go there in 10 minutes by foot. And it's one of the biggest markets in Hamburg, even for a Rewe, because it formerly was something else. It formerly was a hypermarket, so they had huge of space, and they made a supermarket out of it, but with higher or way larger area. And they open, I think, at 7, but they close Monday to Friday at 11:30 p.m. and on the weekend at 12 p.m. or vice versa. You don't have 24/7 shopping like you have, for example, in the US or in convenience stores in other countries. But it's actually quite new. I think it was 15 years ago or something like that, that these restrictive hours that you see here were scrapped. So it's not like Saturday. Stores always had open on Saturday, but at least 15 years ago, I remember that stores still on Saturdays closed like 4 p.m. or 4 to 6 p.m. like you see here. And on weekdays they usually were open between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. so for 12 hours. For normal stores, when you have like really small stores and special stores, that's something very different even today. But these general stores, these supermarkets and hypermarkets are open Monday to Saturday and at very good times, but and they would be allowed to open longer. So if I recall correctly, the law that was made like a decade ago or something goes like that they could open 24/6, I think. I think they are not allowed to open on Sunday, except for special Sundays that we have, at least here in Hamburg. But I think it's in all of Germany, these so-called open Sundays, when they can open between 1 and 6 p.m., but only on 4 Sundays a year, which they usually pick one early spring, one in summer, and then 2 between October and December. So they have a little more opening hours during the holiday season, but they could do it whenever they want. I think I'm really not an expert on this. I go shopping and I go there when it's open, and I don't go when it's closed, and it wouldn't be very suitable for a store in Germany to open 24/7, because no one would go shopping in the night anyway. You don't have those crazy working hours like you have in the US, that you wouldn't be able to go shopping when the store is open regularly, because they are open when they are open from 7 to 11 or to 10 p.m. Then you usually don't have any job in Germany that would take you as long as this opening hours, that you couldn't go before or after work. So yeah, that's that.
Germany in the late 90s was a hostile market.
Restrictive shopping hours, regulated zoning, and high unemployment kept other companies away, according to analysts at Kurt Salman Associates Europe. Retail market growth rates averaged just 0.3% per year in the 90s.
It was also entering a market full of successful native discount retailers like Aldi and Lidl, which were stiff competition. By German law, these smaller stores could offer lower prices than big box stores like Walmart.
Soon after arriving in Germany, Walmart faced accusations that it was using short-term predatory pricing.
Yeah, this was actually a thing. So as she just said, the most successful stores, or discounters in that case, in Germany are Aldi, not Aldi or whatever she said. It's Aldi, and Lidl, not Lidl, and to a certain degree Penny Market. And those are, as I said earlier, they are discounters, so they can offer their products at the lowest possible price. They are actually not really allowed to go lower, because there are rules and regulations that forbid such things. And when they try, like Aldi often tries to lower the price of milk or of bread, so the most essential things in Germany. And every time they do, then the other discounters would just call them out and do everything necessary that either Aldi raises the prices again, or they would just lower their prices as well, so that it doesn't really matter where you go shopping in Germany. If you go to Aldi, Lidl, Penny, plus whatever, the prices for similar products are usually the same. So a liter of milk costs the same at Aldi as it does at Penny usually. And so people usually just go where the nearest store is. So I, for example, I usually go to Penny because I go 3 minutes to Penny. I could go 10 minutes and I am in the Aldi in the other direction, and an Edeka and another Penny, but that Penny is the nearest to me, so I go there. And when I need something, because discounters don't have a huge amount of products, so if I need more special products, for example, like special sauces, special spices, fresh meat, good fresh vegetables, and then I go to the Rewe that I mentioned earlier. Rewe. I don't need to pronounce it English, and go there, or I go to the Edeka. But I usually do not go to Aldi or anywhere else because it's not as convenient for me. I go there when I'm for example, when I'm in another city and it's the nearest store, because I know the quality is usually the same, the price is usually the same, everything is usually the same. It's just another brand, pretty much. And what Walmart's first problem in Germany was that they wanted to offer these low prices that they do in the US, for example, because that's their thing. They want to be the cheapest on the market, but they were not allowed to do so. Like you see here in these headlines, Walmart of predatory pricing, Walmart must raise prices, because they weren't allowed to have the same prices as discounters, because discounters are protected in Germany, because they are the most basic stores that the citizens can go to, and every citizen must be able to afford the things at the discounter. And if someone comes and is not a discounter and has the same prices or even lower prices, so they would catch the customers from those discounters, then it's just forbidden. It's not allowed. I might put in the info text box why, if I can find any short version of this, but I think you can imagine, you see it. And then the problem of Walmart was that they raised the prices, but then the prices were too high, because I think they got even higher than those of hypermarkets. So they weren't really able to find a good balance.
Walmart faced accusations that it was using short-term predatory pricing to try and put local shopkeepers out of business. Regulators had to order Walmart to raise the price of basics like milk, flour, and butter.
After that, their prices were too high in comparison to the competition, like Aldi, which ran small, bare-bones stores.
The discount retail sector was a lot larger in Germany than in other countries. It was about 40% of the supermarket business, which meant that groceries and daily goods tended to cost around 15% less than the European average.
Yeah, it's just what I said. Those 40% is whenever you need something basic like bread, milk, butter, noodles, pizza, or other deep freezed, frozen products, stuff like that. You go to the nearest discounter, and you almost always have a discounter. If you are in a city, you almost have a discounter at pretty much every street corner. If you the closer you get to the city center, then the lesser it gets. That's where you mostly find those higher priced stores or hypermarkets, or like in the center of Hamburg, I think there is not a single discounter, hypermarket, or anything like that right in the center at the central station. But I'm not quite sure. I'm always looking for one, but it's not their thing, I think. But anyway, and even in every smaller town, you have several stores. And the smaller the town gets, you have to live in a village, I think, so much that you don't have at least a discounter near you. And by a village, I mean like mostly a couple hundred people. And I think even then you would have a discounter. I think you have to be under 100 to don't have one. I don't know. But yeah, and that's those for 40%. That's the daily goods. And if you happen to have a supermarket at the closest, then you might go to the supermarket because the prices are not that much higher. And if the nearest discounter would be further away, it's more or less a struggle. And as I said, if you need something more special, something more specific, something of a little higher quality, or you just want to have more products at your disposal, then you go to a supermarket, and those are always those are usually also close, not as close as the next discounter. As I said, I have in a radius of like say 2 kilometers, I have 2 Penny, 2 Aldi, 2 Rewe, 1 Edeka, 1 Plus, 1 Lidl, oh, a third Aldi, a third Penny. So at least 10 stores in 2 kilometers radius. And I don't live in the center of Hamburg. I don't live in the suburbs of Hamburg. I live in a densely populated part of Hamburg, that's true, but not as densely as other parts where you even sometimes have even more stores in a close radius. And when I go to parts that are further away, then this would not shrink dramatically. You still have at least usually 3 to 4 stores of any kind in a radius of 2 kilometers. If you are in a more dense populated area, if you are in the real suburbs where you have very less dense population in Hamburg, then you might have only 1 store in that radius, but you still have 1 store. I don't know why I'm blabbering so much on those, but now you have a slight grasp how it is, at least here in Hamburg. But for the most parts in all of Germany, at least where I was, and I was in quite a few places in Germany,
tended to cost around 15% less than the European average.
On top of these financial obstacles, Walmart faced a different kind of problem, a cultural problem. The friendly Walmart practices, based on Southern hospitality, were perceived by many to be fake and at odds with German culture.
German media reported that Walmart required its employees to start their shifts by engaging in synchronized calisthenics and group chants of Walmart, Walmart, Walmart. This was intended to build loyalty and morale. Walmart also required its cashiers to flash smiles at patrons.
So this first part is so, in my opinion, I am German. You might know that. In my opinion, it's so creepy. I would not want to work at a place where I had to do like gymnastics and chants every morning and scream out the name of the company and stuff. Don't get me wrong, this is not as unusual as you might think in Germany. But usually it's, for example, when I worked at the company Otto, which is a mail delivery company and the second largest in Germany after Amazon. And I worked there, and when we had meetings, then in those meetings we usually do 5 minutes of loosening the muscles and maybe a few gymnastical thingies. But we only had those meetings like once a month, and we only did it in bigger meetings with the whole team, but not when we had like schoolings or something like that. And it's like only 5 minutes, and it's just to get the muscles loosened up and to have a nice start to the meeting. We didn't chant Otto, Otto, Otto or something like that. And like shown there, that's not something that I would do, and not something that pretty much anyone I know would do every day. It's just creepy, and in Germany we don't like brand and company loyalty are very, very huge things for people in the US, I think. It's my impression what I get when I watch videos like this, or videos from Germans that live in the US, or vice versa. Then my opinion is always that the Americans live to work, and in Germany we work to live. Work is work, private is private, and so all this stuff with loyalty is not that big of a thing here. Like I said, when I worked for Otto, which is a mail delivery company, second only to Amazon, people working there still usually went shopping on Amazon because it's cheaper and they have more products. And why wouldn't we? And also Walmart had this policy that you, for example, weren't allowed to have relationships with co-workers, which also is something that we Germans hate when somebody tells us who we can meet and who not. And a company has no right of doing stuff like that. Sure, if you have maybe a relationship with someone who is in a position higher up, then at least you tell, because if, for example, you have a relationship with someone who makes the personal plans, the shift plans, and before any suspicion comes around that they might prefer you, then it's better if everyone knows, and so that if you do it in secret, then those suspicions might come around when you come out and tell everyone that you are a couple or something. I don't know. It's not forbidden. It everywhere where I worked, it was never forbidden. And if someone would forbid it, then I think pretty much almost every German would quit that job, because we don't let companies tell us what to do and what not. Except from those things that strictly regard the company itself. So if I have to wear a uniform, then sure, for work. If my company would tell me I have to wear this uniform in private as well, or the colors of the company, then I would say no, I wear what I want. I come to work in the clothes that you say I have to wear. If it makes sense, it's not like Walmart, if they don't have uniforms, but they say you can only wear blue, but you have to pay them yourself. No, if you have to wear a uniform, you have to pay. So not I have to pay, you, the company, has to pay that uniform. If you want me to come up only in blue clothes, then you have to pay them. And if you don't, then I wear what I want, and you can't fire me because of that. That's the law. So yeah.
Wow. Walmart also required its cashiers to flash smiles at patrons, which a lot of customers thought was flirty and creepy.
That's also how they felt about Walmart greeters. Pretty creepy.
People found these things strange. Germans just don't behave that way.
Yeah, and that's the part when we had the German Unification Special. Then we took a look at the stereotypes that people have about Germany. And one of those stereotypes, I think, was that we are cold or stuff. And then I told this story here because these southern hospitality, these American way, and it's not only American, it's in many cultures, it's that you greet people and you tell them how they are and how their kids are and stuff, and you smile at them, and you don't do that here in Germany. In Germany we are not cold, we are not emotionless or stuff like that. We're just honest, and we think that these more or less culturally forced behavior is dishonest. You don't want to know how the day of some random guy was or how they feel, and if you ask, they will tell you I'm fine anyway, and if they don't, then they are the odd ones out, because you don't really want to listen to their sad story why they are crying today, or maybe if they're crying, and you know what I mean. And in Germany, when I meet a neighbor on the street, and I might not, because we know each other, but I wouldn't stop and smile at him and say, hey, how are you? Except he's a friend of mine, or we have more contact. So if it was a neighbor that I usually visit, or who feeds my cats when I'm away, then maybe I would ask if I have the time, and if I have the feeling that the person as well has time for that. But not to strangers, and not especially when I'm going to the supermarket. And so in Germany, when you go to the supermarket, you put all your stuff, and you don't have people running around asking you if they can help you, at least not in grocery stores. You have that kind of in some specialty stores and boutiques and stuff like that, but that's not because they want to be friendly with you, but because they don't want you to steal anything. Usually you have to go to the people and ask for help, and they do help you. It's not like go away stuff. It's like they are there to help you, but they don't come to you and make you feel creepy because you feel like you are being watched or something. Many people in Germany are like, for example, when I go shopping, I don't want anyone to help me or to speak with me. I just want my silence, except I have a question, or I look for something specific and I can't find it, or I don't have the time to really search for it, so I just ask where it is. And then they are friendly and they help you. And in the grocery store, you go, and if you don't have questions, then the first worker you speak with is the cashier, where you usually say hello, then how you want to pay, if card or cash, and then a goodbye, and maybe have a nice rest of your shift or a nice weekend. And but it's usually more or less a thank you too, or you as well, or something like that, because the cashier usually says that first, that they want to wish you a good evening, stuff like that. But that's all. That's it. They usually don't even smile at you, because they in many American sitcoms and cartoons, these grumpy kitchen lady in the school, some, not all, but some cashiers I usually encounter are like that. They look a bit grumpy. They usually are a little bit annoyed by everything, because I usually go shopping when it's almost the end of their shift. So when the store closes at 10 p.m., I usually go at 9 p.m. And but they're still friendly, and most of them are smiling and friendly, but not so much as you would expect it in a Walmart. And there's no one greeting you when you come in and stuff like that, because, as just said, it's creepy in Germany. It's if I'm in, I worked for GameStop, and at GameStop they adapted to the German culture, but they kept stuff like going actively to the customer to help them and ask them if they need help, which is something I had to do when I worked at GameStop, but not because, as I said earlier, to help them, but because to watch that they don't steal anything. Yeah. Let's go on.
Found these things strange. Germans just don't behave that way. Hans Martin Poschmann, the secretary of the Verdi Union, which represented 5,000 Walmart employees, told the New York Times.
Walmart also imposed restrictive measures on their employees, which they called an ethics code.
Walmart required its employees to report if coworkers broke any rules.
This is the most strange thing that Walmart did, because that's like they didn't get the memo. Germany has a past with the Gestapo in the NS times, and with the Stasi in East Germany. Both were built around denouncing people. So and with the Stasi, nobody really knows who was in the Stasi. Everyone suspected everyone to be in the Stasi. If you were actually in the Stasi, you would also report your own family members. Germans don't do that. We don't like that. No. This is just, this is the of all the things Walmart did, in my opinion, this is the highest no-go they did. Because that's not only illegal, it's also ethnically very, very questionable, and especially in Germany with that past, it's just no. You don't do that. And you especially don't ask people to do that. And there are some cases of other discounters and stores. Most prominent is Lidl. They were secretly filming their employees, so they were just looking at the security cameras that were there anyway, but they were also looking what the workers did. And when the workers found out that they were more or less spied on, they sued Lidl, and they won, because Lidl is not allowed to use the security cams to spy on their employees. And this is just not allowed. As I said, work is work. What people do in private is their thing, and of course workers could break rules, but you are not allowed to secretly spy on them, or to ask them to call out everyone who breaks rules. And don't get me wrong, people still call out people who break the rules, because maybe they fear that otherwise they would be convicted or something. And but they do this on their free choice. Being obliged to do so is something else, and something that Germans are not fond of.
Walmart required its employees to report if coworkers broke any rules. And if they didn't comply, they could be fired. Walmart also prohibited sexual intimacy and flirting between coworkers, according to the Financial Times Deutschland.
A German court eventually struck down this ethics code in 2005. By German standards, Walmart is also anti-union.
They didn't understand that in Germany, companies and unions are closely connected. They thought we were communists.
Yeah, I don't know if unions actually are invented in Germany, but we have unions that are very, very, very old. They go back to the 19th century, to the time of Otto von Bismarck, and I think some even beyond that. And from the beginning, unions were more or less involved in politics, in the companies as well, and protected by the politics. Some more, some less. It was a struggle, as it was everywhere. But today it's that being in a union and having a union is the most beneficial thing for not only the workers but also the companies, because they work together, they have meetings together, they find things that go wrong and try to fix them, and they find things that go right and try to empathize on them and to build upon those things. And it's just a good thing. And in many branches, job branches, you have then contracts that are valid for the whole branch, even for those that are not in the union, because the unions and the companies then have just haggled out those contracts, and because it would be too much of a struggle to separate those who are in the union from those who aren't, and because then those in the union would maybe become or earn more money, stuff like that. So it's just one for all, and if you work in a specific brand at a company that is obliged to those union rules, so they have agreed and signed the contract, then no matter if you're in union or not, you get the same pay, you get the same rights, you get the same responsibilities, stuff like that. And Germany has a social economy. It's not a socialistic economy, but a social economy. And this is one of the strongest pillars of this social economy are the unions. So I don't know why, but America again. I think unions are not as encouraged in the US. At least that's my impression.
And unions are closely connected. They thought we were communists, Postman told the Times.
It sounds like employees, associates, they're listened to.
And without going through union politicians.
Of course not.
All unions work at is taking a cut out of my pay.
Unions strongly opposed the working culture in Walmart.
Walmart and German unions never established comfortable relations. All of these obstacles combined led to declining sales.
Walmart's German stores had a profit margin of 1% compared to their British stores, which had a margin of 6 to 8%. Germany's top 10 chains made up 30% of the market, but Walmart made up just 3% of the market. Full-time staff in Germany demanded a 19% premium compared to UK workers on average, which drove up Walmart's operational costs as their sales declined.
So Walmart withdrew from the country in 2006, offloading 85 of its stores to its local rival, Metro.
They had employed 11,000 people and generated $2 billion in 2005. But that represented just 4% of Walmart's international operations. It has become increasingly clear that in Germany's business environment, it would be difficult for us to obtain the scale and results we desire, Michael Duke, vice chairman of Walmart stores, told the Times.
Walmart's dedication to their company culture ended up dooming them in Germany. The lesson? The locals are always right.
Yeah, so in summary, Walmart just neither did understand the German laws, nor did they understand the German culture. And because of our history, because of just who we are and who we have become in the last 2,000 years, Germany is a very, very hard environment for new companies, especially when they try to enter markets that are already more or less oversatisfied by already existing companies, like in that case the discounter and supermarkets. There is just no need for really hypermarkets. So she just said that they sold their stores then to Metro. Metro is not a store where you we normal Germans usually don't go to Metro, because as far as I know, Metro is not really a hypermarket. You can only shop there if you are registered as commercial person. So in Germany, if you, for example, want to open your own store, you need a commercial license, and that commercial license is required to shop at Metro. So I, for example, I don't have one. I can't go shop at Metro. It's called Metro is a wholesale business, not whatever the opposite of that is, what a discounter and supermarket is. Wholesale just means that they have large quantities and they sell large quantities, because they usually only sell to businesses. Sure, every private person with a commercial license can go there and can shop there, and can shop there in smaller quantities, but the bulk of their customers are commercial customers, like, for example, a restaurant that shops their drinks there and gets a discount, because that's also something that you get at wholesales. And yeah, so that was the story why Walmart failed in Germany. It's a little bit over 45 minutes. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. If you don't like it, please dislike and tell me why. And we will see us next time with I think horrible histories, but I'm not sure. I just won't announce the next video anymore, because things change, interests change, and something I want to do earlier, something later. But yeah, the link to the original video, as always, is in the description. Please join the Discord, ask me whatever you want. You can also ask me, of course, in the comment section. And yeah, have a nice day, have a nice evening, sleep well, and goodbye.